Hmm. For some reason my microphone is not working. I turn it on and after 5 minutes it turns itself off. I don't know why. Maybe because it is time for me to quit creating these videos. But I will not give you the satisfaction. I'm not like that. Let's go. Hi guys, once again I wish you all the best in the new year. I hope that it will be better than the previous one. And today, while we're still in this, let's say, holiday spirit, let's talk about a little bit about investments. I know that I have already spoken about those investments, what investments are, but there are a lot of guys asking me, okay, but what do you invest in? And I was also talking about this, but I somehow see that you struggle with the terms investment. What is investment? What is not investment? What's the difference between stocks, bonds, cryptocurrencies, gold, and so on? What is a good investment? What is a bad investment? And so on. What potentially can give you the most money in return? So, where you can make most money. And first, guys, you have to understand there is no easy money, there is no quick money. It's all the game of patience. Game of patience. So you have to be patient and you have to wait. If you wait long enough for 10, 20, 30 years, then as long as you wait, you will be rewarded at the end. And for how long you wait, the reward will be proportional. So if you wait 30 years, it will be substantially bigger reward than if you wait only 20 years. But that's something, it's some money that you put aside and forget. You lock it, you forget about password, you know that's there, but you don't even touch it. You don't even look at it for the next 20 or 30 years. It's a long time game. And then, above all, not only that you put inside some money, you have to make recurring investments each month, day after day. You put aside some of your money, let's say from your active income, you put aside and you invest. So you accumulate, plus you have this effect of compounding interest. But today, guys, let's just recap this thing. So if you want to budget yourself, do you remember what I said about budgeting? You have your income, you deduct your must expenses, that's your electricity bill, utility bills, and so on, the things, groceries, and the things that you have to buy to live, to have your, let's say, standard, not above average life, standard life. And then once you deduct this, you put something in your savings account. And I said you have to have 3 to 6 months of your must expenses saved up like cash on a bank account somewhere. You can put it in a savings account, it doesn't matter, but it has to be instantly reachable. You have to be able to get this money in an instant, on demand. So you cannot be curled up somewhere that you have to, it's not liquid, let's say, enough so that you cannot get your money in, I don't know, 10 days, 15 days, 3 months or something like that. Savings, then investment, then your planned expenses, like your traveling, your vacations, your birthdays, I don't know, something like that. Go to a wedding. And then you have play money. something that you can spend each month on you, on your things. Maybe games, maybe clothes, maybe shoes, it doesn't matter. Something that you can play with. But also you can save up money for shoes, then it's a planned expense. But nevertheless, these two categories at the end are something for you, but the first two are something that you invest, something that you care about your future self, about what will happen to you in your future, where will you get your money from. This savings is something that you can get quick money because you never know. For the rainy days, something might happen and you must be able to cover your expenses. And investments is something where you invest your money to work for money. So that's the part when you put and where you put your money to work. So those are investments. Investments are something that will pay you money along your active income. It can be a job, 1, 2, 3 jobs, it doesn't matter, side job, but those are active income because you trade your time for your money. And these investments is basically you put your money to work and that money generates new money. It works for new money. Understand me? So you do not spend your time to get more money. So it has to be like this. More money. Okay, now we know where investments are in our budget. But now let's see, when you're talking about investments, what we have. And this is something that I was speaking in one of my previous videos, investments. So investments. Is everything that you put money in is an investment? No, no, no. What is investment? Investment, and listen carefully, is something that can give you recurring and easily predictable so steady income. Okay, so you can have your active income, you can have your passive income. In most cases, investments are recurring, easily predictable, and steady passive income. Okay, if it's not recurring, so on daily basis, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, quarterly, if it's not easily predictable, you cannot predict to a certain extent how much money you will get out of it, and it's not stable enough, nothing in your life is completely 100% certain and stable, but enough. That's why I say enough. Then, if it's not recurring, if it's not easily predictable and steady and stable, then it's not an investment. So there are different, let's say, classes of assets and commodities. Okay, so I put here some of them: stocks, bonds, real estate, Bitcoin, like crypto, watches, car, businesses. I don't know what can we put also here. Stocks, bonds, real estate. I believe those are some of the most popular ones. So are stocks investments? The short answer is yes and no. Depends. Depends on if stocks are also dividend paying stocks. If those stocks are dividend paying stocks, then they are investment because those companies that issue those stocks, they give you those dividends are recurring, and if the company is good, stable, then it can be easily predictable. So these stocks, especially that are dividend paying ones, those are investments. Is index funds funds like SPY, so S&P 500, is that something that's investment or not? Yes, even though maybe there are not any of companies inside that pay dividends in those 500, that's nearly impossible, but nevertheless, let's say it depends on what are the current 500 top companies. Then you can, let's say, be sure, because of the history of the performance of S&P 500, then that over the period of the last hundreds of years, the yearly return is around 8 to 10%. So it's easily predictable. It's recurring because it's every year. So it's steady. So yes, it's an investment. Maybe you will not get your paybacks or dividends and so on every month, but nevertheless, it will give you recurring, easily predictable money. Bonds. Our bonds, they're similar to stocks, but in terms how you as an investor see them, but they are, let's say, they're less riskier, especially if you put money in some government issuing bonds, because let's say those bonds are like 3 to 5%, okay, and if you invest in them over a period of, let's say, 3 years, there is almost 0% chance that you will not get your percentage, your investment back. So it's easily predictable, it's recurring, and it's steady. So it's an investment. Obviously, it's an investment. I would say yes. Stocks are yes and no. It depends. Bonds, let's say yes. Real estate. Is real estate an investment? Yes, if you use it for rent, if you're using it for renting, then you have rent that you receive as your, say, monthly paycheck. And then also what you have is appreciation of the real estate over some period of years. So there is a double effect where you can earn money on real estate. But yes, if you buy and rent your apartment or multiple apartments, then you have monthly rent. It's recurring, it's easily predictable, it's steady. Nothing is completely 100%, guys, guaranteed, because you can have tenants, and those tenants, I don't know, for some reason don't want to be anymore in your apartment, so you have been left without tenants, and then you're rent free, so that's not good for you. So you cannot be 100% certain that you will receive your rent for every month in a year. So okay, guys, but in most of the cases it's an investment. Is Bitcoin, gold, also gold, is Bitcoin and crypto, is this an investment? No, 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 no. Why? Because it's not producing anything. It's not producing any added value. It's not creating little Bitcoins, so it's not multiplying itself. It's not recurring. It's not, especially, it's not easily predictable, and it's not steady. Can you earn money in Bitcoin? Yeah. Can you earn big money, big bucks in Bitcoin? Yeah, for sure. But it's not an investment. And how do we call those classes of assets that are not investments? The only way that you can earn money in Bitcoin is that you get paid from someone more than you have paid for that Bitcoin. So you sell it for more than you bought it. That's a speculation. So you speculate. You think, based on different parameters, that the price of this asset class, maybe this commodity, it will go up in value. And then when it goes up enough to a certain level where you feel comfortable enough, then you will sell it. Then watches, car, especially collectible watches, collectible cars, maybe a vintage car, art. Is this investment? No. Why? Because it's not recurring, it's not easily predictable, and so on. Also, it's speculation. Maybe it's for art, especially for art. Maybe it's less speculation than for Bitcoin, especially if you have some artists that are well known, like Picasso or something like that. If you are dealing with those kinds of art pieces, then of course you can be sure to a certain degree that you will be able to sell it more than you have bought it. But nevertheless, it's all a speculation that you will find someone who will pay you more. Okay? It's not producing anything. It's not producing new money that will continuously flow into your pockets during several months, years, and so on. Then businesses. Are businesses investments? Yes and no. Because okay, some businesses are publicly traded, so then you have the possibility to buy the stocks, so it falls into this category. But let's say the company is not publicly listed, you cannot buy stocks. You can only buy some shares of the business, so you are partially owning the business, let's say 15% of the business. But is it an investment? Yes and no. It depends in what state of the development this company is. If it's an, I don't know, spin-off company or a startup company, then maybe it's more a speculation. But nevertheless, businesses have a possibility, they have a tendency and have the possibility to become investments. Bitcoin doesn't have it, and it cannot never be an investment because it doesn't have this possibility to become easily predictable and recurring. It's simply not possible. Businesses, on the other hand, have this possibility because they produce something, and if they produce something that's high valuable, in high demand, and you see that people will want more and more of that product in the future, then yes, those businesses are investments. If you are early in this business, if it's a startup company, okay, then the risk is high, the potential gains are also higher. Then it's more of a speculation. But if you are smart enough and if you understand the businesses and understand the economy and so on, then you can minimize those risks, and at the end, those speculations can become investments. And guys, once more, only maybe 10% or less of startup companies make it through. So be prepared for every 10 companies, startup companies that you invest in, 1 to 2 companies maybe will become an investment. You have to understand every one of 10 startup companies, they make it, they succeed. But is it okay for you as an investor? Yes, because you will put from 1 to 9, you will put $1,000, and also you'll put $1,000 in this 10th company. Those will bankrupt, they will disappear, and you will lose your $9,000. But this one, the potential of the return of this 10 company is times 10, times 100. Let's say times 50. If it's times 100, it means that you will earn on your initial investments of $1,000, you will earn $100,000. Your expense is $9,000, and you left with $91,000, guys. So that's why it is an investment. You have to know the risk. So the risk is 90%. That's why you are very picky about the companies that you go with and that you will invest in. And then you hope at the end that one of them, well, maybe even more of them, will give you 50, 100x of your initial investment, and it will cover the cost of other investments that will go broke. Okay, guys, That's why businesses are, it depends, but they have a potential to be investments. If they are not, they have the potential. And then at the end, you have gold or such other commodities, oil or something like that. Are those investments? No, because they're not producing anything, they're not recurring, they're not easily predictable, steady, and they don't give you steady income. Okay, guys, so only asset classes that gives you money regularly in your pockets are investments. In most of the cases, those are like a recap of everything, are dividend paying stocks together with these S&P 500, bonds, real estate, okay, and then at the end, businesses. And if you are watching the wealthiest people in the world, what they invest in, you will see very similar structure. They invest in dividends, they invest in stocks that pay dividends, they have bonds, but you don't have bonds if you don't have a lot of money, because it's a low risk game. This is something when you have millions and billions of dollars, then you'll put in bonds because you don't care. 3% on a $10 million is, you know, $300,000. So who cares? Then real estate, you know, you have to uh, put some down payment, maybe 10 to 20% for the new real estate, and then you leverage other with your credit line from the bank, and then you have your tenants pay for the credit, and you're left with the rest. So let's say your monthly credit on one real estate, it's $1,000. You have $1,500 rent, and you are left with $500 per one unit. And then it's nothing more than a numbers game. Then you buy another one, another one, another one, and then if you buy 10 of them, then you have $15,000. If you buy 100 of them, you have $50,000 per month. Steady, recurring, easily predictable income. That's why the rich people, they love real estate, and they love to put money in businesses in very early in some good stories. They have a high yield potential. That's like Shark Tank or something like that. So it's more for a play, let's say a playground. So the wealthy people understand that they have to be in these top three categories, into dividend paying stocks, into bonds, into real estate. They have to invest more and more money into that, and they understand that they can play with some businesses in early stages, and then, but do they put money in Bitcoin, in watches, cars, art, in some rare vintage cars, so on, in gold, in oil, in silver? Do they put money in those kinds of commodities? Yes, the answer is yes. But gold is more like a preservation of the value. Watches, cars, and art, especially if they understand those, let's say, markets, they can earn very good bucks, and also Bitcoin. But you know what's the deal? Never put more than, I don't know, 2 to 5% of your wealth into those classes, into those categories. So you understand me. If you see a wealthy man, a very rich man, be sure that most of his investments are here and in businesses, and then he has 10, 15, maybe 10% of this play money to put it in new businesses, in gold, in bitcoins, in watches, and so on. Maybe the return potential is very big, so they have put $1,000,000 and they have pull out 10 million or 100 million from crypto, but it doesn't mean that the majority and the bigger portion of the wealth of their wealth is in those classes. No, they understand what's producing money and the classes in which money creates new money, and what is just for fun. Okay, that's why you have to understand what are investments. Investments are something that give you some capital that you put somewhere that gives you recurring, easily predictable, steady income. If you're not doing that, then you're not investing, you're speculating. Crypto and other things, those are more speculation than investments. Guys, do you agree with me? Do you at least now know what's the difference between investments, speculations, what is investment, what is not? Please write down in a comment, and if you have any questions, please be free to ask. More than glad to answer those questions. Bye guys.